Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. It's funny how this crazy world turns, isn't it? For example, when booking guests onto this podcast, I'll let you into a little secret. There is no battle plan. There is no hidden agenda. Much of it just happens randomly in complete chaos, and I kind of like it that way. Let's just stick everything in a melting pot and see what comes out the other end. The way it usually works is people will email me and ask to come on the podcast, or I will reach out and invite them if I've seen something that particularly interests me. And if we both agree, I send them a link to my calendar and they book their own slot at a completely random time convenient to them. But at the moment, we're living in a time of greater awareness of putting people, our planet and sustainability first. And it just so happens that the guests arriving each day seem to fit that theme and that narrative too. But I'm happy to see where it all goes. And as many of you know, I do write a number of tech columns. And a few months ago, I reported from Davos about how sustainability was quickly becoming the new selling point for businesses. But in that article, by contrast, I wrote that Coca-Cola's head of sustainability advised without irony that the company was not going to ditch single-use plastic bottles because consumers still want them. And predictably, an angry backlash saw many accuse the company of not taking responsibility for 120 billion plastic Coke bottles polluting our planet every year. And I remember at the time thinking that something big was happening because reports suggest that an incredible 88% of consumers now care about the environmental impact of brands. However, those changes are also creating opportunities for businesses to leverage technology to do more with less and embark on that journey of sustainability. Now, not long after I'd published that article, I received an email from somebody saying, I read your story that mentions Coca-Cola's comments around plastic bottles at Davos, but I'm reaching out to see if you'd be interested in a conversation about how the only truly sustainable beverage container is aluminium. Or should I say, aluminum? You say aluminium, I say aluminium. Let's call the whole thing off. Seriously though, because of the powerful interest behind it, the plastic industry often dominates most conversations around waste and sustainability. And the truth about solutions and circular materials is often hidden or lost behind doctored research and metrics. So as a result, consumers are continually blamed for the problems that we're facing. And those tin can beverages that we all enjoy are often overlooked and misdefined. Now, I love busting myths on this podcast and also learning how technology is transforming areas that we're all guilty of not thinking about and just taking for granted. So come with me all the way to Denver, Colorado, so we can speak with Adam Shelton from Ball Corporation. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Adam. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Of course. Thanks, Neil. Very happy to be here today. So my name is Adam Shelton, and I'm the Global Sustainability Manager at Ball Corporation, the world's leading manufacturer of aluminum beverage packaging. And my job at Ball is really to advise on material, environmental, and social sustainability issues associated with Ball's global packaging business, and to really help set sustainability strategy that not only aligns, but also drives our long-term business strategy. I've been at Ball for almost 4 years now, and it's been really exciting to see Ball's efforts around sustainability grow so profoundly in that time.
Now, because of the powerful interest behind it, one of the reasons I was excited to get you on here today is because the plastic industry dominates so many conversations, especially around waste and sustainability now. And the truth about solutions and circular materials is often hidden behind doctored research and metrics. So I recently discovered, as a result, consumers are continuously blamed for all the problems that we're facing. But can you expand on that problem and talk a little bit about why aluminium, or should I say aluminum, is often overlooked and misdefined?
Absolutely. There is a lot of conflicting information out there. And the reality is that most of our waste is not recycled. In fact, the Environmental Protection Agency here in the U.S. recently confirmed that only 25% of waste in the U.S. is actually being recycled. And a lot of that material that is recycled is downcycled into lower value products, which ultimately ends up in landfills. And that's not real recycling. What more or less determines if a material is recycled or not is A, if the technology exists to easily collect, sort, and recycle that material, and B, if economics drive demand for that recycled material over virgin material. Recycled material is a commodity, just like anything else. So if the existing technology in place to collect, sort, clean, and recycle that material makes that recycled commodity less cost effective than the virgin material, the end markets often cease to exist for that material, and it will be much cheaper to landfill. So as you've alluded to, as a society, we've historically placed the burden on the consumer to recycle, but as we see that, the consumer is really only one piece of this equation. Many of the products that we use in our day-to-day lives and the packages that contain them are designed and sold to consumers without enough knowledge as to how or even if they can be recycled at all. And historically, beverage brands and their retail partners have relied on plastic for its low cost and convenience, but it's really important that we start focusing on using materials that are meant to be easily and cost effectively recycled. Many people don't know that aluminum cans were designed using one material specifically so they can be easily recycled, and that aluminum's inherent properties allow beverage cans to be recycled an infinite number of times without losing quality. So combined with high recycling rates and high recycled content, aluminum beverage packaging is a readily available, sustainable solution for beverage brands and consumers looking to choose packaging that aligns with their belief system around sustainability. And at a time when packaging waste is piling up in landfills and even in our natural environment, and this being a very critical decade to address climate change, we're really excited about the number of brands, particularly small, fast-growing brands who are realizing the sustainability qualities of aluminum beverage packaging and are using aluminum to connect consumers with their sustainability stories.
And I suspect that for many people listening all over the world, what they won't know is, of course, that the Ball Corporation is the world's leading supplier of these cans and bottles that we're talking about here. So can you tell me a little bit about how you're working on this life cycle assessment of beverage packaging and ultimately how it's demonstrating that when recycled, it's actually the most sustainable and lowest carbon packaging material, just to shatter any myths out there?
Of course. So for context for listeners, a lifecycle analysis, or LCA for short, is a tool for assessing the environmental aspects and potential impacts associated with a product from the production of raw materials up to the point of what happens with that product at the end of its use. And LCAs are often used in product development and improvement, benchmarking, and even development of public policy. And there can be a lot of conflicting information out there on the environmental impacts of different packaging. So Ball is currently working on a life cycle analysis that will provide up-to-date and objective environmental impact information associated with the most popular beverage packaging containers. So aluminum cans, PET bottles, beverage cartons, and glass bottles. And we're performing that LCA also in 3 different markets, in the EU, the US, and the Brazilian market. So this LCA is really designed to allow readers to compare those most common available packaging options with an apples-to-apples approach that lets the reader get a real look at the complete life cycle of a product from manufacturing to recycling or landfill. And there are a few touch points that make this LCA by Ball unique. So we are not only looking at the performance of different packaging types at the existing packaging weights and recycling rates today, but we're also incorporating a number of sensitivity analysis that will allow the reader to draw conclusions based on what's most important to them. So for example, in the LCA, we account for 5 and 10% weight reductions when measuring the climate change impact of various containers and show those different scenarios. Also, Ball is extremely committed to developing circular packaging and moving the world towards a circular economy. And that really starts with achieving more real recycling where materials can be and actually are used again and again. So we've gone a step further than a traditional LCA and integrated circularity metrics into this report in order to provide a more complete picture of the long-term environmental impact and real recyclability of different packaging options. And we think that this makes this LCA a more useful and well-rounded tool and one that can really inform smarter design choices. The report is currently under review with a third-party panel of experts, but we're finding that aluminum cans perform strongly when you take into account their high recycled content, high recycling rates, and lightweight, which ultimately drives a low carbon footprint. And we're also finding that our current sustainability initiatives around science-based climate targets, renewable energy, and recycling rates will continue to strengthen that performance profile even into the future. So we expect to have that final report in the next month or so, and we hope the results really help our customers, consumers, legislators, and other stakeholders working to solve the global packaging crisis that we have today. And we want them to use this as a tool. We want to encourage a more constructive, solutions-oriented dialogue.
And what fascinates me about this is obviously recycling and these cans and bottles that we all possibly take for granted. Nobody, or I suspect very few people listening, will think of technology and the recycling process and putting it together and how it all works. So could I ask that you just try and help educate everyone listening a little bit on the role of technology in that entire recycling process?
Of course. Like with any industry, technology is essential to recycling. Tech plays a role in the process in 2 main ways: the collection and sorting process and the process of making recycled materials into new products. The recycling process is complex, and technological advancements in the design will greatly help us drive sustainable solutions. For example, most municipalities have what's called single stream recycling, meaning that all the materials are collected in one bin: aluminum, cardboard, paper, plastic, and glass. And that material is then transported to a material recycling facility for sorting. In order to cost effectively run that material recycling facility, they have to process large amounts of material very fast and sort materials into bales that have really low contamination rates. So it's important to have technology that can effectively sort materials at high speeds so that they can eventually be sold and processed into new products. Now, of course, while the recycling infrastructure is somewhat static, the types of products and packaging coming into the market certainly are not. Technology also has a role to play in the design of new innovations in packaging to make sure that packaging from the start can be truly recycled within our existing infrastructure, or that we are using technology to create the models and infrastructure necessary to make that recycling happen. While Ball isn't directly involved in recycling infrastructure itself, we are committed to helping improve recycling in communities around the world. For example, in the U.S., we support the Recycling Partnership, whose mission is to strategically strengthen recycling nationally. And we really look forward to continuing to partner with stakeholders across industries to help solve this packaging waste crisis. And technology is a really important part of this.
And I'm curious, in your opinion, what do you think the industry needs to do to design more circular and sustainable packaging? And again, how can technology make that process even easier?
So, as we touched on earlier, it's vital that we shift our focus to designing products that are meant to be recycled over and over again. And so using tools like the lifecycle assessment I spoke about earlier, including circularity metrics at the point of design and innovation of new packaging products, is a really essential part of making this process easier. We know that consumers are demanding more sustainable packaging. So incorporating this new reality into the financial analysis around packaging choice will also drive investment in more sustainable packaging choices rather than just choosing the lowest cost material. If brands consistently choose the lowest cost packaging, but this packaging can't be efficiently sorted or cost effectively recycled in the current system, and millions of dollars of infrastructure would need to be put in place to achieve this, that really changes the equation. So technology can enhance the design process by helping us understand the likelihood of products actually being recycled based on their material, design, use, and what technologies exist to transform this material back into new products. Beyond technology, for the industry to design more circular and sustainable packaging, it really needs to set an international standard on products' true life cycles, differentiate between collection and real recycling, invest in recycling infrastructure, and do a better job educating consumers so that they can make more informed purchasing decisions and cut through a lot of that conflicting information that's on the market today.
And speaking of that conflicting information, one of the things that I learned, we're just researching before you came on the podcast today, was those cans of Sprite, Fanta and Coca-Cola that we've all had at some point can actually be recycled an infinite number of times without even losing any quality. Is that correct?
Absolutely, that is correct, Neil. So aluminum is easily recycled and reused, and it retains its value throughout the recycling process, meaning that it can be kept in circulation longer without becoming waste. And this quality of infinite recyclability is really what drives the economic value and the demand for recycled aluminum. In fact, 75% of aluminum ever produced is still in use today, and the average can in the U.S. is made with more than 70% recycled content. And because aluminum has such great sustainability qualities in addition to its infinite recyclability, we wanted to find new ways to apply aluminum to help reduce waste in other areas. So recently, Ball just launched a pilot program of our first ever Ball aluminum cup. We really saw this as a unique opportunity to leverage aluminum sustainability benefits and create an alternative to plastic cups in areas where they're commonly used, such as sports and entertainment venues. And Ball's goal here is to really help our partners reach their sustainability goals with the aluminum cup. For example, the cup was just used at the Super Bowl at Hard Rock Stadium, the stadium of the Miami Dolphins. And by using this cup, they are phasing out 99.4% of their single-use plastics in 2020. And they are using it to eliminate more than 500,000 plastic cups annually from their supply chain.
And also, when I was researching you guys, I quickly learned that the Ball Corporation recently announced that it earned the Aluminium Stewardship Initiative, ASI. I mean, can you expand on that and what it means to you guys?
Of course. Recently, all 23 of Ball's Europe, Middle East, and Africa manufacturing plants have earned the highly coveted Aluminum Stewardship Initiative certification. And Ball is the first beverage can manufacturer to meet ASI's social, environmental, and ethical standards, which is a major sustainability accomplishment for the company. The Aluminum Stewardship Initiative, or ASI for short, is a global nonprofit standard setting and certification organization that aims to bring together producers, users, and stakeholders in the aluminum value chain that all have a commitment to maximize the contribution of aluminum to a sustainable society. Ball realizes that the sustainability of our company and our products is not just about our direct operation, but also depends on the supply chain of our raw materials and how our products are treated at the end of their life. So the certifications from ASI that have been achieved by Ball provide assurance of responsible production, sourcing, and stewardship of aluminum throughout its value chain. So this is really a major milestone for us, and as we continue to build upon our commitment to sustainability, and we really look forward to continuing to make a lot of progress in this area and be a champion for circularity and real recycling.
Now, I suspect we will have people listening all over the world, and some of them could be listening to us now, actually drinking out one of those cans that we're talking about, and unaware that that can that they're drinking out of now could actually be recycled and returned to a store shelf as of a new can in just 60 days. And also there's so much more that could be created from that can as well. So just to help people listening understand, can you just talk me through how that process works, just so they can walk away from today's podcast and know exactly how everything works?
So once you finish that beverage can today, you can toss that can into your home recycling bin, which is then picked up and taken to a material recycling facility where it's sorted out into a large bale of used beverage cans and sold to a processor. That processor then puts those used beverage cans through a system that shreds them, sorts out any remaining contaminants, and then melts them down in a 730 degrees Celsius furnace. And that molten metal is then casted into a large aluminum ingot that's nearly 27 tons and made of 1.5 million recycled cans. These ingots are then transferred to an aluminum rolling mill where they use heat and a series of rollers to roll that ingot into a roll of can sheet that's about 1/4 millimeter thick and 10,000 meters long. So imagine a 1,000-ton roll of tape, but it's aluminum. And these rolls of aluminum can sheet are then shipped back to a can manufacturer like Ball Corporation, who converts this can sheet into new beverage cans. These new cans are then shipped to a beverage company, filled by the beverage company, and then put back on the local retail shelf. And that process can happen in as little as 60 days to get that aluminum can back in your hand, and that is real recycling. And as you alluded to, Neil, aluminum cans can also be recycled to take on a new life as a car, laptop, or bicycle. And that really goes back to those inherent properties of aluminum. Cans have a global recycling rate of 69% and recycling yields of more than 98%, making them the world's most recycled beverage container. And recycling rates and recycling yields are key measures of sustainability because they indicate that packaging materials are being kept in circulation and out of the natural environment. So from sourcing to recovery, cans really enable true circularity. And in addition to boasting the highest recycling yields, cans have a high cubic efficiency and are easy to transport. And they also chill faster than other packaging materials. So sustainability credentials all around, and be sure to keep recycling those cans.
Incredibly cool, it really is. And looking to the future, how do you see technology continuing to create even more opportunities for sustainability in that area?
There are so many ways for technology to drive recycling. As we talked about, technology can help from the beginning in the design process of new packaging, but it can also help greatly advance our recycling infrastructure. There are companies out there now that are creating smart robots that are enabled with sophisticated vision systems and machine learning software to more efficiently separate streams of materials. These robots are shown millions of images of different packaging shapes and even brand logos, so they can not only help speed up the pace of sorting recyclables to help reduce the cost of processing per ton of material, but they can also reduce contamination. The idea of using blockchain to establish waste supply chains and track materials down at the product level is also picking up traction. Imagine a world in which we could track each product from its point of sale to the material recycling facility and then to the reprocessor using RFID or QR codes. Creating this level of transparency and accountability would allow packaging producers, consumers, and waste management operators to really see the individual impact of each member of this chain and to understand where we might be losing materials in the recyclability chain. So these two pieces of technology together, robotic sorting and tracking, could even allow brands to close the loop further and demonstrate that they're buying and recycling their used products back into their new products. And so the challenge, of course, is doing this all cost effectively.
And for anyone listening that would like to delve a little bit deeper and find out more information, what's the best way of finding you online and equally contacting your team if they are left with any additional questions after listening to our conversation today?
You can find me, Adam Shelton, on LinkedIn, or you can check out Ball at www.ball.com or tweet us at BallCorpHQ. And also be sure to follow our aluminum cup updates at Ball Aluminum Cup.
Well, I've interviewed over 1,100 tech leaders on this podcast about how technology is transforming multiple industries. But I think this is the first one where we're actually talking about the recycling of cans. And I've learned so much. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and explain what you do and demystify some of that technology and the great work that you're doing. So thanks again, Adam. I've really enjoyed this.
Well, I'm glad you were able to learn something, Neil, and I hope that your listeners did too. Thank you very much for having me today.
Wow, what a great story. The fact that a can of Coke, other beverages are available, could be recycled and returned to a store shelf as a brand new can in just 60 days. And it also be recycled to take on a new life as a car, laptop or bicycle. It's just mind-blowing, isn't it? And also, it's great to hear more about the role that technology plays in that entire process. So I won't be making the mistake of mixing cans in the same sustainability argument as plastic bottles. And I hope that you've learned as much as I have from this 30-minute conversation today. I've really enjoyed this one. And as always, if recycling and sustainability is a subject close to your heart, I always invite you to come on this podcast. Ask me a question, leave a comment that I can read out on a future episode, whatever it is. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, I'm Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. But we've reached the end of another episode. Where is this week going? But I'll return tomorrow with another guest. I don't even know who it is or what the industry will be. So it'll be a nice surprise for both of us. But thanks for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.